Welcome to section 15.1. This is even more of a break from our long, complicated questions. These are getting even shorter. Evaluating radicals. However, you don't want to rush on these. It's a backwards thinking. And so take your time getting used to thinking backwards. You're asking yourself, what number squared or cubed will give me 16? So in this case, the first question, square root of 16, we're saying what number squared gives me 16? So saying what squared equals 16, or more particularly, what number times itself equals 16? And what you might do is write out a list if you're not familiar with it, but you want to recite these to yourself whenever you have a chance when you're aligned. Think about 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, and so forth. However, you can use a calculator. So think in your head first and then use the calculator. You should be able to find a square root button, or there could be an x to the y button. Square root of 16 is the same thing as 16 to the 1/2 power. If you're entering that on the calculator, you need those parentheses. When we write it on paper, we don't usually write the parentheses. All right, square root of 16 is 4. That's the answer. A lot of explanation that can come up. This 4 is a rational number. Some of the questions will ask if the number is rational or not, rather than just the answer. 12, square root of 12, 12 is not a perfect square. So if I do square root of 12, I will get a decimal. Let's put that in the calculator. And this is 3.464. So a little bit less than the 4, since 12 is less than 16. And any radical that is not coming from a perfect square then is irrational. That means that decimal keeps going and it doesn't repeat, and it doesn't stop. So that's what we mean by the irrational. Square root of 16, this one, we're asking ourselves what number times itself would equal negative 16? Negative 4 doesn't work. Negative 4 times negative 4 would give us positive 16. So that doesn't work. And 4 doesn't work, and we can't do positive 4 times negative 4 because that's not the same number times itself. So this one, we can solve it, but to do that, it's not real. We have to use the square root of negative 1, call it I. We're not going to go there right now. We just know that this one is not real. If you're curious and you might be going on, we could say that it's 4I, but we won't do that in this class. All right. Cubed root of 8. This one, we're asking what number times itself 3 times will give me 8. So if I take 2 times 2 times 2, I get 8. So that means the cubed root of 8 equals 2. Try this on the calculator. Make sure you can get it. Either find a cubed root button or use something like 8, x to the y, or power button. Depends on the calculator. And then parentheses 1/3. And that should give you the cubed root. Now, cubed root of negative 8. Is there a number that I can multiply times itself 3 times and give me negative 8? Does negative 2 work? Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Yes, this works. So I can do cubed root of a negative number. I just can't do square root because the sign cancels out. And that generalizes. Odd roots of negative numbers work. Even roots of negative numbers give us not real answers. Last fun question. Estimate square root of 102. And what they mean by that is they want to estimate it with the whole numbers that are around it. So if we go back and look at our square root of 12, the idea is that was between 3 and 4. So 3 is less than square root of 12 is less than 4. But they're wanting you to think about this with the perfect squares, not just use the calculator. So I recommend you do it both ways. Perfect squares that are near 102. So 100 is a perfect square. And what's the next one? This is 10 squared. And if I take 11 squared, I get 121. 102 is between those. So the square root of 102 will be between 10 and 11. So they're looking for these answers. And it's a good practice to be able to think about it. So if you see square root of 102, you can roughly picture in your mind, well, that's approximately 10. It's a little more than 10. All right, that's it. Enjoy.